begging the master, give me a walk with Peter. If some sinners coming, with them I go be dealing. Because the things that they do me, I want to fix them personally. Peter wait, Peter looks and still roads by the gate. Funny. Peter look the Englishman, we send Cecil Rhodes to Africa land. Funny. Peter take trip, take rally, but leave Victoria for me. Peter I just don't care what you say, but Mussolini he can't get away. Why?
This is my time for burning.
I'm burning.
Fire blazing.
Blazing.
This is just
Yes, good afternoon Trinidad and Tobago. If you're now waking up and you're now coming up, let me wake you up. Oh shit. If you are just logging on and you are watching, let me lower it down. Here we don't talk about Trinidadian. Let me lower it down. I dare I'll do a show on that thing. Should we be saying lower it down or should we be saying raise it up? How should we be saying it? Good evening. Yes, good evening to all the persons who are currently logging on, and as we wait for the live broadcast of the presser at the opposition, the office of the opposition leader, and we are going to be bringing it to you live right here on BounXup this afternoon. And while we wait for them to start, I said let me come in and start up the thing a little bit. Yeah, things are happening. Later we have a nice one to show you. I have some things I want to show you later. I want to say condolences going out to a member of Works Credit Union. She's a midstreamer from the Works Credit Union, a long-standing member, and she would have passed away, and her funeral is on Friday. So those persons who, if you didn't know, now you know. Let me just get later I'll put up I'll put it up also. Miss Sharon McCarter White, a very lovely lady, soft-spoken, full of joy and love in her heart. And she really had it all she really had good for Works Credit Union. She would have served on a few committees, and she died she was born on the 2nd of the 5th, 1963, died on the 4th of the 8th, 2025. Funeral services are Friday the 8th of August 2025 from 2:30 p.m. And that's the O.P. Allen Funeral Director, 76 to 77 Eastern Main Road, San Juan Cemetery, Western Cemetery, St. James. So you're going forward and then you're coming back to Portland. We do want to send out the condolences to all the persons at Works Credit Union and also those at and to her family, her two sons. One actually is working at the credit union, and so we'll put up the picture later for those who want to see the picture, and so that you will know who it is. Some people say, hey boy, I didn't know it was she. Yeah, so we're going to put it up later for you all to see, in loving memories of Miss Sharon McCarter White. So she will be there. Hey, Miss Woody Tree, Shara, Richard, Beneath Ninkum, is it? Cheryl Seeley, Marlene Pantin. Yes. Yes. So we just waiting for the live broadcast of presser. I only received the presser today basically because I was busy out and about actually. And yes, good evening, Dean Rodney. Yes, good evening. And yes, good evening. We're gonna deal with some people tonight. Oh God! Fire burn them! And I have a nice thing for them. I want to get a whip. For Wayne Sturge. I had to get a whip for Wayne Sturge for later. Oh yeah, it's still afternoon. Alright, yes. I have to get a whip for Wayne Sturge. Yes. Disrespectful. Yeah, you're so disrespectful. Yeah, I can understand no. You're a lawyer. You're a senior lawyer. You're good at what you do as a lawyer. But for some strange reason, you just so disrespectful. Well, if I get the bull pistol, I can hit him a virtual one too, yes. Because you know them fellas when they put on the Superman cape, the so-called Superman cape. he is beyond, you know Wayne Sturge is beyond. You know like them little children and them when mommy didn't couldn't allow you to go outside and play, or daddy couldn't allow you to go outside and play with them children and them say sit down and you always wondering how it would have been to go outside and play with the children. So when you get an opportunity now as a big man, he put on a jockey. Well, I hear them woman and them saying, because there's quick to say about who's small thing and you know, and the robbers will say who's a small thing and small thing. Well, they say it's looking like Wayne Sturge. They say carrying the small pin, and they say the pin very so small that it could go through the eye of a needle. So I don't know. You understand? But that's what the woman and them say. So I just going by what them women and them they be saying because they stand up by the corners and they'll be talking. I don't know if they see it, I don't know what they do, I don't know. But they say the man have a pin that is so small it could go through the eye of a needle. So I don't know what it is that he, well probably when, look, let me not go into that, Let me don't go into that. Yeah. Oh God, hey, yeah. Wayne Sturge, boy, Wayne Sturge. The man get a little toy to play with. The Kamala make him a defense minister. He's saying shoot them in the back, shoot them all how, shoot them here, shoot them how. Shoot them and then go to the court and face. You don't want to tie up poor people trying in the courthouse. You shoot people in the back and you want to tie them up in the courthouse now. You shooting people in the back. You telling people to shoot people in the back. And the Prime Minister of this country, the old witch, who seems to not be able to stand straight, because you know when they have the water, when they drink the thing that looking like water in a bottle, seems to be staggering all over the place. She wants to put up she old foot and say she could do something, stand on one foot. Here, good evening, Miss Victoria is the door. I think I have it right. Victoria door. Althea, Miss Rennie Jennings. Yes, good afternoon to you all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are waiting for the presser, and as soon as the presser comes on, we will be bringing it to you live right here. Well, I'm waiting to see what's going on with Jack Warner matter. The AG speaking of he missing file, he better find the file. I know the file might be right in the office. He better go and pull it out and send Jack. Hey, look, I ain't able to miss out here. It's too early, but I get a call today. That is kind of concerning, you know, and I have to get confirmation on it first about Miss Joni Williams, and if what I'm hearing is true, it is a sad state to know that, you know, a stalwart of this caliber has been treated like this, you know. Well, the place is real hot, so, and I will want to dive into that tonight once I get the confirmation, because I'm hearing about it spreading all over the place. You know, I think that the presser should be ready now. The presser is ready, and probably I talk too soon. So we are monitoring. No, don't say no. It's fake news. I know that. It had to be fake news. You see, Miss Althea? You see how you done ready to jump on the woman? Oh God, no man. Auntie Joan, yeah. No, they say fake news. Somebody says fake news. Yeah, I think it's fake news. So that's why you see me ain't really put up nothing. I want to say nothing. I just talk about it here because I want to know whether or not if it's so they're setting up right now. Right? They're just setting up, and as soon as they are coming on, we will join their press conference. Remember, we can talk freely here. We can't talk on other people's platform, but we can talk freely here. So, but I am glad that that is fake news, because I would have loved to go and talk to Miss Jones to find out what would have transpired and why, you know, such like that happened. But I am glad to know that that is fake news, and we can now move on in peace. So don't jump to conclusion yet. Right? Don't jump to conclusion yet. We're just waiting on that press release to come in, and then we are ready. So it had a massive roadblock last night on the B-term, and that seems to be making some kind of news. I don't know what news is that they have who Joan and what is Miss Joni Williams. That was the former Minister of Culture. That was Mr. Manning's what you call Minister of Culture, Community Development. Yeah. But it is alleged that they sent her a text to tell her don't come out to meeting. Well, I will find out. Let me find out first now. Let me find out first. Isolation. Trying people, 100 Newsday workers going home. Yes, 100 Newsday workers going home. Well, Newsday say they making no money and it was done in trench already that it will be happening. So who knows? No, well, they say how it was this thing going around stating that she was banned from Balizé House and you know, but it's fake news. It's fake news. Nah, go to put you on the party. They can't put you on the party. I don't know. That was saying I don't know, but we will wait to see what is happening, if it might be addressed today. They can't do Auntie Joan that, man. They can't do Auntie Joan that. But as I say, it is I thought that somebody trying to come up with some kind of bacchanal for that, man. Yeah. I doubt that so. They can't do Mother Joni Williams that, man. Well, we are waiting, and well, they're saying they're live, but they're not live. They're still doing some little setting up and different things. So we are having our conversation here. Oh God, no, man. Who is that? Eric? Tell who? Who is that, Eric? Who? I fully well know who it is. Who? Oh! Well, say that now. Look, Miss Richards and put it up there. I don't know. What she do, you know? What she say? Share the life. Oh God, hey. Oh God, hey. Oh God, hey. What she say? What she say now? Oh God, she had like, you know, every good, yes? Oh God. I ain't lying. Oh God, hey. But I don't go and watch it. I don't go and watch it. I don't go and watch it. I don't go and watch it to see what she say about you. Right? I'm ready. By these days, I just only get to. I'm telling you, I doesn't get the time to really go and sit down and watch some of these lives, you know. Well, she entitled to how she likes, you know. She entitled to how she likes. Oh, boy. But you know what we have believed in? Hey. Where's the back? I don't know. I will send me the link. Send me the link. I will take it in. Oh God. Yeah, she entitled to have she likes, yeah. Oh God, I ain't able. Bunny. Blazing. Oh Lord. Judgment morning. Okay. Alright, tune in for the opposition live. They'll be addressing national issues and presenting opposition stance. Right? So we waiting. Still wait. Bunny. Yeah, nah. Let me talk a little bacchanal thing here. When my comments gone, but I can't see my comments. When my comments gone. Alright. Wait, God. Stop playing. You know what we have to do? We have to look at Bill and Nation. Let me just roll back up here. Me, oh, I play naive. Just listen with me. Everyone needs to stop sharing the live, share the live. Hey, I feel like when I take that, you know. I feel like when I take that, I just play share the live. Oh God, hey. With that, last night PG pressure was going up. Pressure when callers and commenters showing favor to Studio and KCR. Who's KCR? It was priceless. Oh God, I need below, you know. What is she talking about? All PG needs to get a job. It's like blaming both gentlemen for his being out of a walk. Who we blaming for? Okay. Oh God, I need now. And I hope to go to go will come. This person will take. Okay. Superfuse, she's talking about emancipation. Okay, she talk and how Michelle, okay, water it down. Eric and Jenny passing it. How Eric and Jenny passing the whole millie. Me understand that, but sorry, mega bomb fresh. I don't have to sing for nothing. Okay, so we are ready to join the presser. Let me go over to the presser and
weekly press conference.
be ready to start.
Today, we have myself as Opposition Chief Whip speaking on the issue of the government's recent announcement through the Minister of Public Utilities that the government has taken or will take a decision to scrap the RIC report that was submitted to the government, the PNM government, over the last 2 years. Um, with me is Senator Faris Alwari, who will discuss the issue of the recent statement by the Office of the Attorney General with respect to the Jack Warner extradition matter. The leader of the opposition, unfortunately, is out of the country. She's not at office at this time, and she has sent her kind regards. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, you all would recall that over the last 2 or 3 years, when the PNM was in government, the independent RIC undertook an exercise in public consultation all over Trinidad and Tobago with respect to a process that normally would have to take place from time to time on matters concerning rates uh, for electricity in Trinidad and Tobago and water. The law has established the independent RIC for that sole purpose, because the issue of rates for water and electricity is one that can be very politically charged and very politically controversial, that the framers of our laws has seen it absolutely important that the situation and this discussion should be depoliticized and should be handled by an independent RIC to determine what are fair rates to be collected by TNTEC and the Water and Sewage Authority to ensure that it collects fair rates to provide a reliable service to the population. But not only that, but most importantly, to ensure that all customers, especially the weak and the vulnerable, continue to have access to the very important amenity of water and electricity. So it is a very balancing act. 3 years ago, that's my recollection, the RIC had indicated to the government, and as the Minister of Public Utilities, as I was then, that it has received the business plan of the Trinidad and Tobago Electricity Commission. And having received that business plan, which is in accordance with the RIC Act, it will undertake public consultation, because that is a very important part of the exercise, that it will engage public consultations all over Trinidad and Tobago, meeting with customers, etc., to hear their views and put forward the recommendations of TNTEC. And following that, the RIC would undertake its own independent assessment on these recommendations and will provide the government of the day with its own assessment and recommendations. You would recall when I served as Minister of Public Utilities how politically charged that was. As a matter of fact, we had incidents in some parts of Trinidad and Tobago where opposition members led protests, disrupted meetings. They threatened explosive uh, substances. In one case, I recall coffins were dragged and disrupting meetings led by members of the then opposition who are in parliament today, disrupting meetings. At one point in time, the head of the RIC, the chairman of the RIC, had to abruptly end a meeting because the situation was so charged that they had to abruptly end the meeting for safety reasons. The PNM government, recognizing the importance of this exercise, we decided to remain very far away and to allow the RIC to do its work and to make the appropriate recommendations. And that's the process. So despite the challenges, the RIC completed its work. They prepared a report, very extensive, submitted to the Ministry of Public Utilities. I was Minister of Public Utilities then, and I instructed my permanent secretary to submit the report for the consideration of the cabinet. And that was my ministerial responsibility. The report was submitted to the cabinet, and the then Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, instructed that the report be submitted to the Finance and General Purposes Committee to allow the FGP, with a group of ministers, experienced ministers, to undertake its own assessment, to meet with stakeholders and to hear from them their concerns with respect to the recommendations of the RIC, which was made public. So the government, the PNM government, then started its consultation. We look at the report, we look at the recommendations. But we had to take into consideration that this was a very important exercise for TNTEC, because TNTEC, luckily for us in Trinidad and Tobago, is a utility company which, in our view, up to April 28th, was a well-run utility agency, despite its financial challenges, providing the people of Trinidad and Tobago with a reliable supply of electricity. Notwithstanding the fact that the government was financing most of its debts, and TNTEC was not paying outstanding debts owed to NGC. As a matter of fact, in the past, the government had to undertake loans, PNM government had to undertake loans to write off or to settle billions of dollars in debt owed to the NGC by TNTEC, because TNTEC was taking subsidized gas from the NGC or gas from the NGC to generate electricity to provide to all customers. And in the past, billions of dollars were spent in accessing loans to settle these outstanding debts. And this is one of the issues that the RIC had to take into consideration, because I can tell you, as Minister of Public Utilities, I had to deal with a lot of complaints from the NGC that TNTEC was not settling its outstanding debt obligations to the NGC, and its bondholders, its stakeholders, its shareholders were all complaining that this exercise was very important, and NGC could not have continued to supply the independent power producers with gas and not receiving or its payment from TNTEC. And it was a very unsustainable situation for the government and for TNTEC. And whilst all of that was happening, you had rising costs in operation, rising maintenance costs, and the RIC had to take all of these matters into consideration in making its recommendation. Also taking into consideration the fact that electricity was heavily subsidized in Trinidad and Tobago. And in addition to that, the government, under the Ministry of Public Utilities, had a utilities assistance program to help the weak and the vulnerable citizens who still, despite the subsidized arrangement for electricity, still could not have paid. And a number of our pensioners, etc., benefited from this utility assistance program. Government spent millions of dollars. And in addition to that, we had a rebate program where low consumers, domestic consumers, also benefited from a rebate. So the government was still subsidizing electricity in Trinidad and Tobago for our pensioners, persons who simply could not have afforded electricity, low-cost electricity, and consumers. Despite your financial circumstances, once you consume a certain amount of kilowatts per hour electricity, there was a rebate that was provided that was costing the taxpayers millions of dollars. So when that report was submitted to the PNM government, we had to take into consideration how are the recommendations of the RIC going to impact on existing program like the Utilities Assistance Program, the rebate program, whether or not TNTEC will be in a position to settle its outstanding debts to the NGC, whether TNTEC, in moving forward in the short and medium term, will be in a position to start paying its debt to the NGC, because those were the considerations of the RIC at that point in time. So it was a lot of work, and the elections came And the PNM government was still undertaking the review of the recommendations because we recognize it is not one that you could rush because of its potential implication, especially for domestic customers, for our economy, manufacturers, etc., commercial customers, but most importantly, the people at the lower end of the economic scale who simply cannot even afford low cost electricity. The UNC government won the elections in April 28th, and part of their mandate, or rather campaign, was that they're going to cancel the, the report. They're going to scrap the report. And that was echoed recently by the Minister of Public Utilities. Okay, that sounds good. It gives him the headline that he desperately needs to look as though they are popular and pretend as though they care for the weak and the vulnerable in this society, because that is all they are concerned about at the end of the day. But governance is more complex. You are dealing with more complicated issues. And it reminds me of a old calypso that says, what's sweet in goat mouth is sour in the rear. You know, it sounds good, it sounds sweet, it feels sweet, it looks sweet in the mouth, but it can be very bitter in a different part of the anatomy. So the Minister of Public Utilities has indicated government's commitment to cancel the RIC report. And the question that I'm asking today at this press conference is that now that the minister has indicated government's policy, and he has said enough on this, the question now falls for the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance to tell the country what is government's plan for settling the $7 billion owed to the NGC, or 1 billion US dollars owed to the NGC. What is the plan of the government? If the government's policy is to write off this debt owed to the NGC, then how is that going to impact on the financial situation of the NGC? Has the government engaged with bondholders and creditors and financial institutions who are engaged in serious business with the NGC with respect to that outstanding $7 billion? Because the government cannot simply scrap a report and not tell the population what are its plans and what are its policies with respect to the settling of $7 billion owed to the NGC. Because I can tell you, in the RIC report, the same RIC report, the RIC was looking to put TNTech on a sustainable financial path where over a 5-year period of time, it will be able to settle its monthly obligations to the NGC. Because the RIC recognized, meeting with all of its stakeholders, that the current arrangement is unsustainable and that TNTech needs to meet its monthly obligations, because the NGC, as you know, is a publicly held institution, very important institution where the public is concerned, contributing to the national coffers. And that situation of $7 billion owing to the NGC and not putting TNTech in a sustainable financial path to meet its monthly obligation can derail the work of the NGC. And therefore, we are asking the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister to tell the country how it is going to finance TNTech's responsibility to the NGC moving forward, because that means that the government now has to increase subventions to TNTech so that it can meet its monthly obligations to the NGC in a period of falling revenues where our deficit is already $9 billion. And if that is the case, the government must tell the population, now that it has announced officially its plan to scrap the RIC report, how it is going to increase TNTech subvention so that it can meet its operational, maintenance, and other obligations to some of its suppliers and creditors, etc., as well as to the NGC. Because TNTech, at this point in time, cannot meet any of its obligations to the NGC without funding through subvention by the government of Trinidad and Tobago, which is exactly what the RIC report was planning to do. And if the NGC is not capable of getting its subventions or its payments from TNTech, of course, it will have a serious impact on its financials. Very serious impact. And if that happens, it is the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago stand to lose significantly by this current arrangement that is not sustainable. So we are asking the Minister of Finance to please explain to the population how you are going to raise the necessary finances to settle this outstanding debt, $7 billion to the NGC, by what means you are going to increase the TNTech subvention so that it can meet its monthly operational maintenance expenses as well as its debt obligation to the NGC, and that the Prime Minister must also explain to the population, because scrapping a plan sounds good, looks good, but it can have dire, serious financial implications. Because at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, government's responsibility is to ensure that TNTech provides the people of this country with a reliable supply of electricity. Because if TNTech is unable to do so, it can have serious implications to the national community and to all consumers. So the government must state its policies and plans with respect to TNTech debt owed to the NGC. And I think all of NGC stakeholders are anxiously awaiting on the government to provide the explanations, to provide the information. The Minister of Public Utilities cannot help. They are fed up of the Minister of Public Utilities, as a matter of fact. He has said what he has to say, and now that this is going to have serious implications for the NGC and for the long-term sustainability of TNTech, it now falls upon the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance to step forward and explain to the country what you are going to do to settle this outstanding debt owed to NGC, and what means you're going to put TNTech on a sustainable path to ensure that it settles its financial obligations to the National Gas Company. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to add government's proposed plan to increase salaries by 10%, because you would have heard the OWTO telling TNTech workers to vote for the UNC because you're going to get a 10% increase. 10% increase means that you're going to add further obligations upon TNTech to pay millions and millions of dollars in back pay. And we are not aware whether TNTech, based on its financial performance, can sustain any increase in salaries for its workers. So all of these things are added to the pot. And it shows clearly that the government must stop, or discontinue rather, with its politics, its populist politics, and to settle down and explain to the country its policies and its implications for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you very much, and I ask Senator Alwari to come and provide an update on the latest with respect to the Jack Warner extradition matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Whip, MP. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for attending today's press conference. Today, we have had interesting coverage appearing in the newspapers. On the front page of the Daily Express, it says, AG launches probe into missing US agreement in Warner case. Extradition shocker. In the Newsday, there is again coverage appearing in relation to this matter. And the Newsday has a very prominent cover in relation to the article, Warner End This Witch Hunt, on the front page. Then we have today's Trinidad and Tobago Guardian newspaper, which also has significant coverage on this issue. It says, lifeline for Jack. AG Jeremy says, key document in US extradition case missing, launches probe. In this particular context of 3 front page newspaper representations, I have come to address the media on matters which are, in my knowledge, as a former Attorney General in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and as the Attorney General then on the 21st of September 2015, who signed the specialty certificate required under law to allow for an authorization to proceed, which is the manner in which you activate the proceedings for extradition. Permit me to refresh the public memory for a bit. We are well aware that the matter of the extradition of Mr. Warner is something which occupied national attention under the government of Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar. That matter was a very significant event. In fact, I recall seeing members of the Persad-Bissessar government holding up a file saying that the only file that Jack Warner needed was a metal file to take his way out of the clinches of a US jail, if you remember. That was no small statement of the kind that was coming. Mr. Warner's extradition having begun in Trinidad and Tobago, on the processes having started on the 27th of May 2015. Let me repeat that. On the 27th of May 2015, a provisional warrant was issued pursuant to legislation for a magistrate for the arrest of Mr. Warner. He voluntarily surrendered himself and his conditions of bail were given, etc. On the 24th of July, a request for the extradition of Mr. Warner was made by the US. The Attorney General at the time was a gentleman by the name of Mr. Gavin Nicholas, if you recall. In the period July going forward to the general election of September 7th, 2015, there were a number of requests for Mr. Warner to the Attorney General, Mr. Gavin Nicholas, asking for disclosure of materials and asking for Mr. Warner to be afforded an opportunity to be heard before the Attorney General authorized the matter to proceed, the authorization to proceed, the ATP. Attorney General Gavin Nicholas refused to allow Mr. Warner to give representations because, quite simply, the law says that there's no right to give representations. In the election coming on the 9th of September, I came in, and on the day that I was being sworn in, on the 9th of September, I was greeted with 2 critically urgent matters in the middle of the swearing-in ceremony. The first one was the case of Brian C. Persad and Sasha C. Persad, which Anand Ramlogan had started against the government, saying that these 2 children were unlawfully imprisoned and they were in the wrong place of imprisonment because they should have been in a child rehabilitation center. That was a remarkable case because it was Mr. Ramlogan's UNC government that proclaimed the child rehabilitation center's law. And he then, after he was fired, started litigation against the state, saying you have to have a child rehabilitation center. That ended up in damages. But the second matter in the middle of the swearing-in ceremony was the issue of the extradition of Jack Warner. As Attorney General, I took legal advice. And I just want to remind you what the legal advice that was requested looks like and where it came from. As Attorney General in 2015, I took a very deliberate step to keep the attorneys at law and persons involved in a number of matters in office. I sent no one home. Senator Brian Baig, who is in the parliament today, was one of those people. He continued for 3 full years, as far as I remember, in the employment of the AG's office under me. He was not fired as being a UNC senator, as he often was. Ravita Babwa, who is at the child division, children's rights, etc. She campaigned against me in San Fernando West, walked the streets, very bright young lady. She kept her job. She's still at the Attorney General's office. She stayed there for a full 10 years under this government. The special advisor to Anand Ram Logan, other persons, the entire Ministry of Justice team, all were kept by me as Attorney General. Nobody lost their jobs. At the time of the Jack Warner matter, these are the attorneys at law who were advising on the matter when I came in. Tell me if you recognize these names. Pamela Elder SC, Jagdeo Singh, Gerald Ramdeen, Wayne Sturge, Brent Hall Pike, Israel Khan SC, Alan Newman QC, and a very important and a very brilliant man, James Lewis QC. The bill for their representation collectively was $15,485,833.30. These are the attorneys at law that I met on the Jack Warner case. I instructed Mr. Brent Hall Pike, retained by the UNC as instructing attorney, to write the other side and to offer them, by way of invitation, the liberty to give submissions on the authorization to proceed. And the legal team for Mr. Warner respectfully declined to do so. Based upon the material kept, Mrs. Elder continued to lead the magistrate court matters. The central authority under Mr. Ram Logan, under Mr. Nicholas, was a gentleman named Mr. Netram Kaulesa, a very capable lawyer. He continued to be the central authority under me, under this government. He participated in magistrates court matters. Mr. James Lewis, now King's Counsel, the leading expert on extradition matters in the Commonwealth, continued to lead these matters. There were judicial review proceedings led by Mr. Mendez, senior counsel, Mr. Commoner, now senior counsel. Mr. Kaulesa participated in that matter as central authority background. And then the United States of America had a team, a watching brief, who actually applied to be involved in legal proceedings, led by Mr. James Lewis, now Casey, Ms. Vanessa Gopal, and Ms. Teresa Haddad. This is the extent of legal work that was going on. In those proceedings, the specialty certificate was signed on the 21st of September, 2015. That certificate is prepared under advice by the Central Authority Unit, and that's a certificate which is issued under Section 8.5 of the law, which says that basically the person who is being extradited will not face prosecution for matters beyond which they're being extradited for. So basically, it was a protection against the broadening of prosecution for other than things permitted under extradition law. The minute that that happened, there was a very important event, and Mr. Warner, as he's entitled to do, brought judicial review proceedings. Mr. Warner brought judicial review proceedings, effectively saying, this was the crux of his case, that the law which treats with extradition, that is the act itself, is in conflict with the treaty. So you will know that there is extradition law in our country, and the point is that that extradition law is embodying a treaty. So the United States of America and Trinidad and Tobago involved itself in treaty obligations, but the extradition law in Trinidad and Tobago really is very historic in its root. The extradition law in Trinidad and Tobago began in 1870. That is the Extradition Act 1870 in the United Kingdom. In 1931, a treaty of extradition was entered into between the United Kingdom and the United States. By an order in council in 1935, all Commonwealth territories accepted that law. That's 1935. Accepting the 1931 treaty. In Trinidad and Tobago, we had the Extradition Commonwealth Foreign Territories Act in 1985. In 1985, we then moved to 1996, where Trinidad and Tobago entered into a treaty with the United States of America, pursuant to the law. And that Trinidad and Tobago extradition law had to receive that treaty and put it into parent law, because there's something called a dualistic jurisdiction, meaning when you sign a treaty, it doesn't become law. You have to go to Parliament and enact the law as a specific feature for it to become operative in our laws. In 2004, there was an amendment to receive a new United States treaty order, 2000 order. And the uncontroverted evidence in Trinidad and Tobago is that since the treaty came into effect, there have been 42 requests, now up to about 47, if not 49 requests by the United States for extradition. Let me repeat that. The United States of America, in exercising its request for extradition pursuant to our extradition law and operating upon the treaty which operates with that law, they have made approximately, let's round it up to 50 requests. It's just under 50. Trinidad and Tobago has entertained all of those requests. And what Trinidad and Tobago has done for the many decades is that it has signed something called a specialty certificate issued under Section 8.5 of the law. And that specialty certificate says that the Attorney General certifies that you will not be extradited for matters to be prosecuted broader than what you're being sent for and whatever else the law applies for. In 2016, the Chief State Solicitor's Department wrote a letter to Ms. Nairi Alfonso, who was the attorney at law for Jack Warner. In that, the Solicitor General said that it was dealing with the documentation relating to an arrangement between the United States. So our extradition law says in Section 8 that you must have, Section 8.3, 8.2, 8.3, and 8.5, you must have a specialty arrangement with the United States. It does not say that an arrangement must be in writing. It does not specify the nature of that arrangement. And the law says in Section 8.5, once you produce the certificate, that's all you need to demonstrate that there is the arrangement. They call it the single window instead of proof from time to time. The law generally accepts that the law of the receiving country can treat with the specialty rule, meaning you won't be prosecuted for more than you're being sent for or as allowed by law, or you can have a special arrangement. I want you to focus on the word arrangement. There is no word of agreement set out in the law, and there is no concept of agreement. But in 2016, the Chief State Solicitor's Department, under the hand of Sean Julian, wrote to Ms. Alfonso, referring to an earlier letter of 13th of January 2016. And this is captioned in the judicial review proceedings, right? So he's answering Ms. Nairi Alfonso, saying, I'm referring to your letter of January 2016, and it speaks to the extradition provisions. It says Section 8.5 says a certificate confirming the existence of an arrangement is there. And he says that it was on that basis that the Solicitor General, he wrote to Mr. Warner's legal team on the 28th of December 2015. This is a couple of months after Mr. Warner's authorization to proceed, Remember, you're looking at 21st September 2015, the authorization to proceed is signed, including the specialty. By the 28th of November, the Solicitor General is writing to Mr. Warner's legal team and providing them with a copy of the certificate. And this is what this letter goes on to say. A copy details the terms of the arrangement in conformity with Section 8.3 requirements. Full stop. There is no other arrangement. That's how the letter ends. Mr. Warner's judicial review proceedings began. He was challenging, to make it very simple, his allegation was, look, the treaty, which is annexed to the law, is in conflict with the law, and you must comply with the law. The act must prevail. He went to the High Court before Justice Aboud, as he then was. He then went to the Court of Appeal. He then went to the Privy Council. He went through a number of heads, and he addressed this issue of something called a specialty, as to whether the treaty dealing with specialty was in conflict with the parent act, which requires the specialty, and they went on to deal with the matter. So the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the Privy Council dealt with all of those matters. Now, I'm raising that because in law, in judicial review proceedings, you are obliged to deal with your whole case. You can't have bite one at the cherry, then bite two at the cherry, then bite three at the cherry with incessant litigation. You're required as a principle of law to deal with the whole case. That is both for the benefit of the administration of justice and for the litigants, both litigants. And the position is that this matter was litigated. Now, you must bear in mind that first you had Gavin Nicholas, then you had me, then you had Mr. Armour, then you had Mrs. Robinson Regis, now you have Mr. Jeremy. So there's a train of attorneys general. But the reason why I mentioned the antiquity of the extradition law and the fact that we have had approximately 50 extraditions to the United States is that this issue on the front page of the papers concerns all extraditions. And it concerns the relationship between Trinidad and Tobago and the United States of America. I can confirm today that the Office of the Attorney General, when I was there, paid for independent representation for the government of the United States of America to be involved in the judicial review proceedings. That involved an application by the United States of America to become an interested party, because they have an interest under Section 56 of the CPR, Civil Proceedings Rules. They applied, Mr. Justice Aboud denied their intervention. It went to the Court of Appeal. Mr. Justice of Appeal Mendonça rejected their attempt, but on a different ground. And in that procedural appeal before Mr. Justice Mendonça, he said very plainly that he was reflecting in his discussion upon whether the United States submissions would be different from the Attorney General's submissions. And he felt that it would not, because there was a close working relationship between the United States government and the Attorney General's office. And I can tell you now, having sat in the office of the Attorney General for 7 years plus, that there is a very close relationship between the government of the United States of America and the Office of the Attorney General. That includes regular meetings with the Department of Justice, with the CIA, with the FBI, with the Department of Treasury, with a number of agencies. But in this Jack Warner case, the government of the United States of America was actively tracking the matter, and their legal team was headed by Mr. James Lewis, King's Counsel. So Mr. Warner had his judicial review. He was rejected right round. He came back to Trinidad and Tobago. The Privy Council delivered its judgment, if I remind you, in 2022. It's UK PC 43 on the 17th of November, 2022. This is after I left the Office of the Attorney General. That judgment came. Mr. Warner came back to Trinidad and Tobago, went to the magistrate. In the magistrate court, before the chief magistrate, he asked for a number of questions to be answered, 7 questions. And he asked for a referral by the magistrate for those questions to be dealt with in the High Court. And he commenced two forms of action. He asked for a freedom of information request, asking for production of this specialty in its written form, and he also asked for constitutional relief. And Mr. Warner's constitutional claim was led by the following attorneys. This is the team of attorneys acting in the matter of the reference by the Chief Magistrate pursuant to Section 14 of the Constitution and in an application for constitutional redress pursuant to Section 14. This is the legal team. Mr. James Lewis, King's Counsel. Mr. Ravi Rajkumar, Senior Counsel. Ms. Vanessa Gopal. Ms. Radon Dalrymple, Mr. Radon Dalrymple Watts. The head of the Central Authority in that matter was a gentleman by the name of Mr. Graham McLean, served at the Central Authority since 2016 come forward. Mr. Graham McLean was previously at the Ministry of Justice under the UNC, acting under several ministers of justice. Long experience, talented man. So that's the team. Mr. James Lewis is to be found on the website. I want you to look to the Joint Head of Chambers profile on Mr. James Lewis. He's been called in 1987. He received his silk in 2002. And Mr. James Lewis's expertise in extradition is renowned globally. A few weeks ago, there was a very significant event in Trinidad and Tobago. We had an election. In the election, as we well know, the UNC received a resounding victory, and they have occupied the parliament as the government. Coming in, Attorney General John Jeremy, a man who has occupied the Attorney General's office twice before, at least 7 years in practice before, very experienced Attorney General, very experienced in extradition matters as well, because Mr. Jeremy, as you famously know and recall, was involved in the extradition attempts for Mrs. Galbaran Singh and Ferguson, the Northern Construction defendants in the Piarco Airport matter. But Mr. Jeremy entered as Attorney General, and there were changes at the office of the Attorney General. Mr. Dalrymple Watts was dismissed. Mr. Graham McLean came to an end, the head of Central Authority. Mr. Graham McLean, his contract was not renewed. Two new people came in to the Attorney General's office. They're still there. There is a Mr. Timothy Afonso, and there is also another person. Her name is Shariza Khan Hines. There is currently no head of the Central Authority office. So they're brand new. Graham McLean is sent off. Dalrymple Watts is sent off. But last week, in the constitutional claim that came up, where today's headlines come from, Thursday last week, the attorneys at law acting for the office of the Attorney General, they were sent communication informing them that they're no longer any matter. Not by way of a direct dismissal, but the lawyer now acting for the government, a gentleman by the name of Mr. Strang, and that is, you can find his information for 3 Hare Court. Mr. Robert Strang, call date 2003, not a King's Counsel, has replaced the legal team that I gave to you, comprising James Lewis, King's Counsel, Ravi Rajkumar, Senior Counsel, Vanessa Gopal, and Dalrymple Watts. So enter Mr. Strang. Mr. Strang was in the position where, as I'm informed, the attorneys at law on the record, the previous attorneys, received this communication from Mr. Strang saying, well, I understand you were previously in the matter. So that's how they were informed. But on the day of the hearing that came up yesterday, the judge, Madam Justice Reed, had already received written submissions coming from the claimant, Mr. Warner. There were positions in reply by the Office of the Attorney General, and then there were submissions in response to those submissions of the Attorney General. So all the written submissions were filed in the matter. And what is interesting to note is that the written submissions by the Office of the Attorney General, they were filed on the 2nd of May 2025. 2nd of May 2025. These written submissions deal squarely with Mr. Warner's allegations that there was misrepresentation, effectively fraud, a lack of candor, a lack of full disclosure, a number of very serious allegations into the Attorney General and the Office of the Attorney General, including allegations that the lawyers for the Attorney General, and that would include a string of lawyers for the Attorney General, all the way up to the Privy Council, misrepresented certain things to the courts. In fact, the Attorney General went further. On the 4th of August, the day before the hearing on the 5th of August, the Attorney General wrote to Madam Justice Karen Reid, making reference to the trial set for the 5th of August, the next day, asking for an adjournment of the matter and saying that the reasons are that inquiries are ongoing into the submissions made by Mr. Warner with the intention of giving the court a full explanation. Fine. One, of the basis upon which the then Attorney General issued the specialty certificate on 21st September 2015, and two, how it was that representations came to be made to the courts, and in particular the Judicial Committee, in the judicial review proceedings, during which certain representations were made to the Judicial Committee as to the nature of the supposed arrangement certified by the specialty certificate. The AG quite properly says that he's recently come in, he was busy. He says the time before the hearing doesn't permit a completion of these inquiries. However, the defendant submits that given the allegations of impropriety are made against his predecessor in office, it is important and indeed necessary before those allegations are determined, he should first put the court an explanation and a response. He suggests, given the gravity of the allegations, potential impact, not just on the standing, but on the public confidence and administration of justice, it is important to be determined accurately and all evidence available, not in the absence of an explanation. He takes the view that it would not be fair to individuals involved to determine allegations before they have had an opportunity to give their own account of the rules. So he's exercising natural justice. He says once his investigation is complete, the defendant is likely to be able to make appropriate concessions and narrow the remaining issues before the court. The newspaper reporters who attended yesterday went further to say that Mr. Strang, hired last week, Thursday, gave an apology to Mr. Warner. So here's the letter of the AG saying they're going to do an investigation, they're going to ask for reasons, but there's Mr. Strang in court conceding by way of an apology. But get this, in complete opposition to the written submissions of the Attorney General filed in the case. The written submissions of the Attorney General. Those written submissions were under the hand of Mr. Raj Kumar, Senior Counsel, and Ms. Gopal. And in those written submissions, the Attorney General's office effectively says, yeah, we hear Mr. Warner speaking about two issues that in the absence of evidence of an arrangement between Trinidad and Tobago and the United States, that they have some questions and that there's an alleged improper representation by the office of the AG during the course of judicial review proceedings. So there are two issues. The Attorney General's written submissions are that this case has been decided already. Well, this case is effectively blocked from being heard under the principle of something called res judicata. Res judicata says you can't have multiple bites of the cherry. If you're in litigation, raise all your points, bring them before the court. That's why I referred you to the December 28th, 2015 letter of the Solicitor General, and also to the January letter of the Solicitor General. And in these written submissions, the attorneys set out that the matter is to be properly blocked by way of res judicata, that they had their chance in the High Court, in the Court of Appeal, in the Privy Council. They could have brought freedom of information requests. They did none of that. They then go on to speak about the antiquity of the law. They then go out to deal with the authorization to proceed and the specialty certificate. They deal with all of the submissions in the specialty that happened in the High Court, in the Court of Appeal, and at the Privy Council. They say that this is an abuse of process. And very importantly, they, in their written submissions, note that there is evidence before the court from the central authority head himself, Mr. Graham McLean, an affidavit of Mr. Graham McLean, which demonstrates that the issuance of the specialty has been the standing practice of the Attorney General's office since the law came to be in the form that it is. And Mr. Graham McLean puts an affidavit in. His affidavit is electronically filed. It goes in on the 8th of July, 2024. And Mr. Graham McLean says the central authority is responsible for assisting the Attorney General for extraditions, etc. The requests come to him. The central authority gets external legal advice. After it gets advice, it prepares the authorization to proceed, the documents, the certificate, etc. It goes through all of those particulars. And what happens in the processes? He then says that Mr. Warner did submit in 2023, in January, a Freedom of Information request. He then says on January 27th, he responded to Mr. Warner's attorney, informing him that the certificate of specialty mirrors the certificates issued by a succession of attorneys general over the years and reflects the terms of the standing special arrangement with respect to specialty protection for persons extradited to the USA. And that applies to Mr. Warner. He says that he's informing that a recent search of documents didn't recover any written version of that standing arrangement. And that confirms what was communicated by Mr. Julian. I've referred you to Mr. Julian's letters, and there will be other letters. He also refers to something called superseding indictments, 2015 and March 2020. Now, superseding indictments are very important. It means that there's potentially an option for a fresh extradition, depending upon advice. He says he's conducted a search. He confirms the position remains the same. He says he has not recovered any written version of a standing special arrangement. He observed since the proclamation coming into effect, this is at the date of last year, there were 42 extradition requests by the US. The standing special arrangement in these matters is reflected in certificates of specialty in the same terms of the specialty issued in respect of Mr. Warner. Some of these specialties are annexed. So he pulls out a couple of them. Take a look here. This is the affidavit of Graham McLean. First specialty is in the matter of Raphael Christopher Douglas that he annexes. 19th August 2005. Signed, John Jeremy, Attorney General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Next one is Kareem Ibrahim. 20th day of July 2007. Signed, John Jeremy, Attorney General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Next one annexed is Abdul Noor. Signed the 20th day of July 2007. Signed, John Jeremy, Attorney General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Next one is Abdul Qadir. Signed the 20th day of July 2007. Signed by John Jeremy, Attorney General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Next one annexed, Dennis Amoa Ben, signed by Bridget Anisette George, 20th of December 2008, Attorney General. Next one signed is Doreen Alexander, dated 11th February 2011, signed by Anand Ram Logan, Attorney General, Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Next one next is Gary Govindas, dated 26th of May 2011, signed by Anand Ram Logan, Attorney General. Next one is Darren Sue, 12th March 2013, signed by Anand Ram Logan, Attorney General. Next one is Kelvin Zain Khan, signed 1st October 2014, signed by Anand Ram Logan, Attorney General. He then annexes one signed by me, 29th of August 2016, Azokar, Eduardo Azokar. He annexes another one signed by me, Devanand Sukhdeo, signed by 20th July 2017. That's the date, signed by me. And so it goes. There is a specialty certificate for Mr. Steve Ferguson, for Northern Construction, for Ishwar Galbaran Singh. But especially I raise the Steve Ferguson matter because, as you know, that extradition request had some serious red flags in it. In the Ferguson extradition request, there was a change of government. Mr. Mendez was fired. Mr. Avery Sinanan replaced him. He was leading Mr. Kelvin Ramkisoon. They went to court on the challenge brought on the extradition request. It was lost in the High Court. Mr. Ram Logan then gave written instructions to the Miami lawyers that he has taken the decision not to appeal the extradition request. But that extradition request, as far as I'm advised and informed, was signed by John Jeremy, Attorney General, the first Attorney General to really go hard on white-collar crime, as I've said publicly before. He was excoriated for going behind white-collar crime. You all remember that. But that specialty certificate, like all the others that I'm referring to, have the issue of what stands behind it. And today, when you get a statement that there's going to be an investigation, the investigation has to go back to all of these specialties that I'm referring you to now, including those signed by Jeremy, Anisette George, Nicholas, Gavin Nicholas, Anand Ram Logan, Glenda Moraine, Faris Al-Rawi, Reginald Armour. And folks, there were extraditions up to, I'm informed, stand to be corrected, up to last week. The only difference in Mr. Warner's position so far as I'm informed, now I don't have all of the papers, I can't speak to all of the facts, I mean, I'm working with information as I've gotten some of it, is a very important point brought out by Mr. Graham McLean. In his affidavit evidence, he says, the standing special arrangement was reflected in certificates issued by the Attorney General, the same as specialty certificates issued by former Attorney Generals, and that in Warner's matter. I have not had, nor have had any reason to believe that the standing specialty arrangement, which has been in place for years, was not followed and will not be followed. In fact, on or about March 28th, 2023, when submissions were filed and served on the claimant, the authorities in support of the submission included, listen to this, a diplomatic note number 2023-068 dated February 20th, 2023 from the Embassy of the United States, which provided an assurance that if he, meaning Mr. Warner, is returned to the US, quote, he will not, until he has left or has been free to leave the USA, be detained, prosecuted, or punished for any offense committed before his return, other than A, the offenses for which he was extradited, B, and a lesser offense or offenses proved by the facts proved before a magistrate on the extradition proceedings leading to his return, or C, any other offenses being an extradition offense for which the Attorney General may consent to his being so dealt with. A true copy of the diplomatic note is annexed. And listen to what this diplomatic note disclosed in court says. The Embassy of the United States of America presents its compliments to the Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs. Remember, an extradition request comes in a diplomatic note. So the normal process for informing what the US does is via Foreign Affairs. So the Embassy of the United States of America presents its compliments to the Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and has the honor to refer to the embassy's diplomatic note 2015-194, dated July 22nd, 2015. In other words, then, folks, that's the extradition request which Mr. Gavin Nicholas and the UNC had to deal with, right? Which requested the extradition of Jack Warner pursuant to extradition treaty between the government of the United States of America and the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, signed on March 4th, 1996, and entered into force November 29th, 1999. Listen to this. The United States has reviewed the specialty certificate issued by the Attorney General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, dated September 21st, 2015, in respect of Warner. The United States assures Trinidad and Tobago that if Warner is returned to the United States, he will not, until he has left or has been free to leave the United States, be detained, prosecuted, or punished for any offense committed before his return, other than A, the offenses for which he was extradited, B, any lesser offenses proved by the facts proved before a magistrate on the extradition proceedings leading to his return, or C, or any other offenses being an extradition offense for which the Attorney General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago may consent to his being so dealt with. The point of contact in this matter is U.S. Embassy person, political economic person named who may be contacted. The Embassy of the United States avails itself of this opportunity to renew to the Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs the assurances of highest consideration. Dated Port of Spain, February 28, 2023. I let that settle in for a moment. So let me, in summary, state this. Enter new government, April 28th, 2025. New cabinet, May 2025. Fire or not renew Graham McLean, head of Central Authority. Fire or not renew Radon Dalrymple Watts. Fire Vanessa Gopal. Fire Ravi Rajkumar SC. Fire, insofar as he's named in the constitutional proceedings, James Lewis King's Counsel. Change out that team, hire Mr. Robert Strang, junior counsel. I'm sure he's a capable lawyer. I make no disparaging comments about him, but hire him, call date 2003. Come to court on the day of oral submissions when you have written submissions filed by the Office of the Attorney General saying, hey, that case is irrelevant. It's already decided on a res judicata. You're blocked from arguing this claim because you should have raised it before. The specialty is good. There's a standing arrangement. Look at the Graham McLean affidavit. Look at what the Privy Council and the law says. That is the committee between nations. Understand, in any event, even if there was one required, you have the United States assurance in writing given to you that this is going to go on. But folks, the Office of the Attorney General must know what I'm telling you. Now, I've already marked the spot on another matter. Mr. Anand Ramlogan has been hired as the lawyer of choice for the government. Habeas corpus, state of emergency, CPEP. And I'm telling you again, there are fraud matters against Mr. Ramlogan filed by the Office of the Attorney General. There's existing legal proceeding against Mr. Ramlogan for fraud, bribery, and other civil claims in the matter of Vincent Nelson's bribery. I'll remind you, the Court of Appeal just a couple of days ago upheld that Mr. Nelson cannot get out of his conviction and sentence because he was well represented by King's Counsel, because he passed through a magistrate, he passed through a judge, he passed through the DPP. The DPP went on affidavit and said he conducted an interview and investigation on his own. The DPP confirmed that I discharged my obligations as Attorney General insofar as I was required to give him representations. All of that has been confirmed. And yet, Mr. Ram Logan is hired by this government in the face of those allegations. So when you hear that they come in for you and they're going to prosecute you for this and for that, well, what about the standard that you are setting with Mr. Ram Logan as an example? Let me be fair. You have due process. The matters are to be ventilated in court. I will await news of the judgment in the Vincent Nelson case, where Vincent Nelson sued for damages against the Attorney General's office. That trial, I was cross-examined for hours, and I'm awaiting the judgment in that case. It's been delivered, but I have not seen it because it's sealed. Let me repeat that. The judgment has been delivered, but it is sealed. And that judgment is the one that deals with the civil litigation that the DPP said he was going to discontinue proceedings on, as far as I understood it, before he decided whether he was going to go back and indict Mr. Ram Logan and others. I don't know. I'm on the outside. I don't know these things. I'm sure you will be interested to know these things. So I can confirm I have received no letter from the Office of the Attorney General. As far as I'm aware, I don't know who else has. Mr. Warner is perfectly entitled to take the approach that he is taking. This is due process. I disagree that the constitutional claim can follow the judicial review claim. I believe that the principle of res judicata applies. I had to deal with it when I was managing the Piarco Airport litigation. Mr. Ferguson sued and lost, compromised certain litigation and tried to sue again and again. And several judges said, you can't do that, res judicata. On this occasion, I agree with the submissions of the Attorney General's office. We have the diplomatic note put in after I left the Office of the Attorney General. You have the intervening steps of AG Armour, perhaps AG Robinson Regis, I'm not sure, whoever was acting in the office at points. But if there is to be an investigation as to the specialty certificate, then all specialty certificates have to be examined. And I send out a call now from the Office of the Leader of the Opposition, as we stand here under our leader's direction, that the United States of America surely must take note and ought to be and will be very concerned that Trinidad and Tobago is now putting at risk all extradition proceedings that have passed already. Because if all of them potentially relied, as Mr. McLean has said, I saw these affidavits only yesterday, if Mr. McLean is saying that all the specialty certificates signed are in similar fashion, then first of all, Mr. Jeremy can investigate himself because he signed half of the certificates in question. Mr. Ram Logan can't be hired because he signed the next half, or let's be fair, 1/3, 1/3. But this may very well be a point where the United States of America may have to apply to the court to become an interested party, because if the Attorney General's representations, which I'm not clear about, and let me be fair to the Honorable Attorney General, the Attorney General's office has said that they will consider certain factors. The Honorable Attorney General said, I want to be clear, that he's likely to be able to make appropriate concessions, I don't know what those are, and narrow the remaining issues in the claim. That doesn't say abandon the claim. So let's be fair to the Office of the Attorney General and to the Attorney General himself. What I am saying with the information that I have received recently, not having the benefit of the full files, but certainly having read the defendant, the Attorney General's written submissions, and being aware of what happened in the past, etc., this is a matter of great concern. Again, I ask the question, what Ram Logan doing there? Do you follow what I'm saying? How could the office of the Attorney General be suing Anand Ram Logan and then hiring Anand Ram Logan? Explain to me how that happens. I'm not quite sure. There are questions to be answered. We have a number of very important drug enforcement agency matters, extradition requests. The United States of America is a very important partner for the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. We are in a state of emergency, folks. Trafficking in weapons and firearms, trafficking in humans, economic crimes, drug offenses, murders, sexual offenses, all of these are extraditable offenses that the US usually deals with. Terrorism offenses. I gave you the names of persons in certificates mentioned who were convicted for terrorism in the United States. Kareem Ibrahim, Azokar in drugs, in other aspects. These are not simple matters. So when you have the evidence on the record put in after I left the office of the Attorney General, that there's a standing arrangement to treat with these matters, that's no simple matter for the relationship between Trinidad and Tobago and the United States of America. So I will hold on to the prospect and the fairness of the Attorney General's words. Further, once his investigations are complete, the defendant is likely, that is the Attorney General, is likely to be able to make appropriate concessions and narrow the remaining issues in the claim. So ladies and gentlemen, this is no small matter. It's a very serious matter for all extradition offenses, all extradition requests happening between the United States and Trinidad and Tobago. I have spoken to former Central Authority heads who all confirmed to me, this is the way it has been done ad infinitum. I remind where I started early that the UNC under Garvin Nicholas received the extradition request, that it was this legal team which the UNC hired, Pamela Elder SC, Jagdeo Singh, Gerald Ramdeen, Wayne Sturge, Brent Hallpike, Israel Khan Senior Counsel, Alan Newman QC, James Lewis QC. 8 lawyers who were dealing with the matter when I came in as Attorney General. Certainly, in the matter as it proceeded, the Magistrates Court matter was led by Mrs. Elder SC, including Mr. Kaulesa Silochan and James Lewis QC, now KC. The judicial review proceedings, Mr. Mendez SC, Mr. Kwamina now SC, Mr. Kaulesa, and the intervention by the United States of America, Mr. James Lewis, King's Counsel, Vanessa Gopal, Teresa Haddad. These are not small players in the field, and you act upon advice. So may I invite your questions now? I certainly can't make a statement on that, because that would be something that I think we need to pay very careful attention to. That's a very direct, salacious conclusion to come to that I'm sure many people are thinking or wondering about. I can only rely upon the facts as I have them right now. I'm concerned that the entire legal team was fired. I'm concerned that the KC, who's the leading expert in extradition, who was involved in the matter, has been replaced by a junior foreign attorney. I'm concerned that the Central Authority was fired. I'm concerned that there are new people in the office. And I'm concerned that this investigation concerns specialty certificates signed for the last 20 years plus, including certificates by the current Attorney General that concern our relationship with the United States of America. I want you to focus upon the fact that I have informed you that the Office of the Attorney General paid for independent representation for the government of the Republic of the United States in this matter since 2016. That's how seriously we took the view of the relationship with the United States of America. And that is something of serious concern. So I want to stick to the facts. The letter from the Office of the Attorney General is very carefully worded. I was surprised. I've only read the reports, I didn't hear it in court myself, that Mr. Strang would give an apology and a concession, but yet the letter says there is an investigation to happen and people have to be told. That seems rather precipitous and premature, if not dangerous. So I'm sure that there's an explanation to be had with regard to that.
This is a lot to digest. I just want to ask some questions here. So the U.S. is a designated extradition partner.
Yes.
So what you're trying to say is that the certificate of specialty, that should have been enough documentation and there wasn't any need for any additional documentation that speaks to any arrangement for extradition to happen.
So the written submissions of the lawyers in this case, as I've told you, and I'm going to provide you with these copies, right? So you can see it for yourself. The written submissions of the Office of the Attorney General, which was supposed to be just oral amplification yesterday, they say that. They say that there's a relationship of comity and practice for decades, that the extradition law is over 100 years in application, and that this is the way it has always been done, and that even if there was an issue, they've referred you to the diplomatic note, which confirms what the US position is in relation to the Warner matter. Remember that diplomatic note I referred you to refers back to the 2015 diplomatic note where the extradition request came. And they refer specifically to the certificate of specialty 21st of September 2015.
So this arrangement that the AG's lawyers referred to yesterday where they say that could not be found, are you saying that it isn't even needed in this case?
I want to be very careful to remember we're still in court. What I have read to you so far is what is filed and is available publicly, right? Nothing of what I've said here is not publicly available. So I'm sticking to these positions because I'm concerned about the relationship with the United States of America and extraditions in general. That's why I'm speaking here today. Mr. Warner is entitled to agitate every aspect of claim that his attorneys advise him he should. I will say that I am not guilty of anything wrong at all. I have relied on the advice given to me, and I'll speak to that at the appropriate time. I'm not going to go into those particulars because I need to get more of the papers. Remember, this thing is now nearly 10 years old.
But with respect to past extraditions, was any special arrangement, especially when you were AG? Did you need any additional documentation, or the certificate of specialty was all that was needed?
I'll leave it at the affidavit of the head of the special certificate conversation. That's Mr. Graham McLean. He has said on affidavit what that office has done for decades. And he has annexed certificates of specialty from Mr. Jeremy, Mrs. Anisette George, Mr. Anand Logan, and from me and others.
What has he said?
He said that he says that there's a standing arrangement with the United States of America that abides by the law. You see, in the act, it does.
So is he saying that there's no missing document there? Is he saying that the certificate is what is?
Well, I can't say anything more than what he said, nor can I extrapolate what he was thinking or what he may have to say. I don't want to be irresponsible that way. I'm raising these red flags. I'm raising to say what he said.
Would the Office of the AG not be aware of what you would have cited there, especially from the USMC?
Yes, of course.
Would they not have been aware of that?
Of course they should be aware. They have all of these proceedings.
It seems as if the state gave up a bit easily yesterday.
Today
In light of the information everything.
I stand before you as an attorney at law and officer of the court, but somebody who the newspaper say they're trying to get a comment from me, so I come to give you a comment as to what is the important issue before us. Last time the leader of the opposition was away We were talking about CPEP. We were supposed to have a press conference. It didn't happen. They say Faris run. So I ain't running. I right here. Today, the newspaper report came out today. And I got these documents which have been filed. Some of them, there may be more. There are more. So I don't want to go beyond the limits of cautioning. We're talking about all extraditions. All. Remember, there's no period of limitation in certain aspects of fraud, right? So if the case is that there was fraud in that specialty certificate, and that specialty certificate is exactly the same as all the others that preceded it, that means they have fraud in those too.
But that's you saying that the AG hasn't taken that position.
I couldn't tell you.
But he's investigating the Jack Warner.
Yes.
Investigating all the other 50.
Right. So I am now, you're correct. He has said he's investigating his predecessors. I am telling you the predecessors include him because he signed specialty certificates too. Can I exclude yourself from that? So if you're going to talk about specialty certificate, is Mr. Ferguson going to come now and complain about his specialty certificate? Isn't his lawyer Mr. Hussein? Mr. Hussein is a brilliant lawyer, Fayed Hussein. Is he not going to come and complain about that? If there's a new matter, for instance, that pops up, albeit that extradition is gone because it wasn't appealed? What about the drug dealers and the gun runners and the sex offenders that have been extradited? What about those people? Are they going to come and say that there was fraud? Think about it. Take ourselves out of the dilemma of Jack Warner. Mr. Warner is a litigant. He's entitled to his purposes. And come now to the position that is in the public domain. I can't say what the Attorney General is going to do or not do other than what I've seen. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt here. I'm marking the spot. There are some big red flags. All certificates are in question. I couldn't say what he's concerned about or not. He'll speak for himself. I am in the discharge of a public office as a senator. Having been a former Attorney General, I have an obligation to raise certain issues because I'm concerned that the US knows that we're serious in doing business with them and that the arrangements that have existed for decades continue to be honored. I've read out the diplomatic note from the US Embassy. That's no small piece of paper. That's them confirming, referring back to the extradition request, referring to the specialty certificate and say, we assure you. That ought to put an end to the whole story. Remember, Mr. Warner hasn't been extradited yet, you know. Those proceedings are even underway. At any stage in the course of the proceedings, this assurance is relevant. So, Mr. Warner is not in court right now. He's in court on a constitutional claim, as he has brought. We, in my mind, I associate myself with the written submissions in the court say that is blocked by res judicata. You can't bring it. That's where I am. That has to be decided by the court. But it's going to be affected by what the Attorney General says. And in my mind, I'm wondering, well, how did Mr. Strang reach the court? There may be an answer to apologize and to give that sort of impression that there was some wrongdoing. How could that have happened if they have not had the investigation yet? I haven't been knocked on any door to receive any information. I understand it's going to be done within a month. I don't know if a month is sufficient, but I find it passing alarming for something like that to happen, particularly when you fire everybody. Sorry, let me be clear. When persons who were on the case are no longer there, right? I'm not saying that Mr. McLean was fired. His contract was not renewed as far as I'm aware. Let me be fair.
The state would have asked you, they're going to ask you again, do you think this is a deliberate move to block for Mr. Warner, who has been very active on the UNC's campaign team for the election, a former government minister? Do you think all of this is an intentional move to sort of help him out here?
You know what somebody sent to me a short while ago? They sent me something that's in the public domain. They sent a publication coming from Mr. Ken Ali. I don't know if you know that name. He writes for a newspaper called The Sunshine. You may want to check that sort of background, right? But in Mr. Ali's commentary, there was reference to fast forward to Monday night. And another former PNM named AG at the heart of what the Express newspaper called an election shocker. In an early morning phone call, Jack Warner advised me to prepare for a big political moment. And after Kennedy swore at saying, I pondered about another PNM defection. But John Jeremy? Question mark, exclamation. Jeremy was a loyal Patrick Manning soldier serving twice as AG, including when Bridget Annie said George short absence. That's something called Unwind TT. It's headed Cello to Jeremy, Ties That Bind by Ken Ali. I can only tell you what the public fulminations look like. I didn't say this. As I've said before, publicly, I said it in the Senate. Mr. Jeremy, as Attorney General, took a very gutsy move that he was excoriated for to pursue white-collar crime in PRCO. I had the pleasure of finishing that case and winning it, awaiting on the judgment of the appeal court in the United States as to its final outcome. You recall, I informed the country it made no moment, not even a scintilla of report, not a comma was spared on it, that White and Case won a judgment for $20 million in costs. Nobody reported that. Who knows what is of interest to the people of Trinidad and Tobago sometimes.
Funny enough, a media release just came in from the US Embassy talking about the extradition of Sheila Guppy. And it said this extradition is indicative of the strong law enforcement relationships and close cooperation between the US and TNT as we continue to work together to make our country safer. And even went on to say it's a testament of the strength of international cooperation between the Caribbean and the US. And so we're saying right now that this could possibly be in jeopardy.
Sheila Guppy's extradition started under the PNM. If I'm not mistaken, one of his attorneys was Mr. Wayne Sturge. Just to let you know the origin of these matters. I could be wrong, or Mr. Wayne Sturge was Sheila Guppy's lawyer. So it couldn't have been done by the UNC, because Mr. Wayne Sturge is now a minister of defense, if I'm not mistaken. So that Sheila Guppy might be in question. Was there a certificate without a dip note? Is it different from Warner? Is it different from every other certificate that passed on? Sheila Guppy had serious questions to answer, you know. And we were tracking it. I'm very pleased that you have the confirmation. I knew it happened. I couldn't say anything just yet. When I said recently things happened, I didn't call the name. You have just called the name.
But with them saying that, this is an indication of a strong law enforcement relationship between this country and the US, you're saying that could be possibly in jeopardy with this Jack Warner issue?
What do you think? You will editorialize, meaning you, the media, the Fourth Estate, these developments. I mean, I think the Express front page was election shocker. Extradition shocker. It's a shocker. I'm just here to lend caution to any investigation must include all. And we have to have our eyes on the International Committee on Relationship for the standing arrangements with the United States of America on law enforcement and reciprocity. Yes, thank you.
Minister, I want to quote former general manager at TNT, this is Curtis Francois, who would have, when we would have asked him, how much is the commission looking forward to increase rates, or is it looking forward to increase rates, and when will be implemented? And he said it's urgent because currently for every kilowatt hour that we sell, we actually lose roughly 13 cents, right? Now, we first knew about the RIC's recommendation in October 2023.
Yes.
I mean, given what you said is the need for this recommendation to be implemented, why didn't you all do it before election?
As I said, the PNM government recognized the importance of the review process and the potential implications for a wide cross-section of TNT's customers, the competitiveness of the manufacturing sector, because our manufacturing sector, they are competitive because of the low cost of electricity. And we believe that even though they had made submissions to the RIC, the government needed to hear their concerns and to make appropriate decisions. We were also concerned about the existing programs that we had for low-income homeowners who benefited from the utilities assistance program, the rate rebate program, whether the increase in the cost or the potential increase in the cost of electricity would have an impact on government's expenditure for these programs, or whether these programs should continue, and if they continue, what will be the added cost to the government. So a lot of consultations were happening, and we were even asking the RIC to provide us with some further information that to explain some of the recommendations. So it was quite a very tedious exercise, and the government thought that is not one that we should rush. The elections had absolutely nothing to do with it, because you would recognize that this process would have started long before the elections. So the elections had absolutely nothing to do with it. But we believe that wherever we landed as a government, you had to take into consideration TNTEC's long-term survival, as well as to ensure that our local manufacturers, the local economy, is not in any way impacted, and that we preserve those customers who, for one reason or the other, because of the economic circumstances, that they will continue to have access to electricity.
So had you all won on April 28th, the plan was to implement it?
Well, as I said, we have not arrived at, did not arrive at any decision as yet, because we were looking at the report in its entirety. But we were also very concerned that we should not place TNTEC in a very untenable situation where it could not have provided the country with a reliable supply of electricity. And we also recognize that the situation with respect to the NGC, where billions of dollars were being owed to the NGC, that also was very unsustainable. So all of these very complex issues were being determined before the government made a decision. I can tell you, one of the discussions that we had in cabinet was that we may not have gone ahead with the entire recommendation in terms of the percentage increase for low-income owners or persons who consume at the lower level of electricity. We could probably look at a lower scale, but we also wanted to ensure that the safety net that we put in place for under the utilities assistance program, as well as the rebate program, that these safety nets continue to provide support to our vulnerable citizens. Because coming out of that, I recall I had to ask the Ministry of Public Utilities and the PS, they had to put together a team to further advise the government on the long-term sustainability or the sustainability of these existing programs that we had in place for low-income owners. They had completed a report, and that report also was on its way to cabinet for the consideration of the Finance and General Purposes Committee. But I could also tell you, Akash, I am almost certain that the UNC government made absolutely no study of that document.
I was going to ask, what if their rationale is that the impact it would have on the average consumer, the lower income brackets, that they didn't want to implement that rate increase?
What's that?
What if that's their rationale for it?
Whose rationale?
The UNC government's rationale. They're thinking about the impact on the average consumer, especially those on the lower socio.
They did not give their rationale. It was a campaign promise, because it was a very popular promise to the population. So the PNM could have gone ahead and said the same thing, Akash. What would have prevented the PNM, to say it, that we were not going to implement the RIC report? We could have said the same thing, but we talk about that governance of our country. It's all about being responsible. It's all about being responsible and taking decisions that will protect the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago and all our stakeholders. The PNM government could have said so. The UNC promised that they're going to scrap the report, that there will be no increase in electricity. I guess that would have been one of the things that persons would have taken into consideration. But the PNM government is saying that it does not end there. Now that you're saying that you're going to scrap the report, now tell us where you're going to get $7 billion to fund the NGC, and how are you going to, or where rather you're going to get the money to increase subvention to TNTEC so that it can take care of its outstanding obligations to the NGC. Because it is quite easy to say that we are not going to implement it, fine. All well and good. It sounds good. But what about the billions of dollars owed to NGC, TNTEC's inability to pay the NGC moving forward, and where is the government going to get the increased funding to provide increased subventions to TNTEC?
But of course, I think having made a campaign promise and having received the mandate of the population,
Mhm.
they there's an obligation, I think, to fulfill that promise.
And damage the country.
Well, I mean, that's in nature politics. They made a promise. People like the promise because nobody wants to pay increased rates.
Um,
And given the fact that we are in difficult times,
Yes.
population, many people have difficulty, meeting and paying for essentials.
And that is why the PNM government decided that it is not a decision that one could rush. The PNM government also recognized that we had certain safety net in place to protect the most vulnerable citizens, which is the utility assistance program and the rate rebate program. All of these programs being funded by the government of Trinidad and Tobago by the tune of millions of dollars. So you had to tread that needle. But in so doing, you have to ensure that you don't damage a very reliable utility agency, because whilst yes, you have to protect the citizens, and if you damage TNTEC, you damage your economy, then all of us will suffer tremendously as a result of that. And that is the nature of governance. Governance, responsible governance, that is the nature. Balancing this act to ensure that whilst yes, you are protecting the most vulnerable in the national community, that they continue to have access to a reliable supply of electricity, all of our stakeholders. Because if you don't have access to a reliable supply of electricity and you damage your utility company, it is the most vulnerable that are going to suffer even more than a rate increase itself.
You recognize you all are between a rock and a hard place because you're not saying they should increase the electricity, but at the same time, you're saying
Yes, I'm saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying now that they have decided that they are going to scrap the IRC report, they have an obligation to the people of Trinidad and Tobago to explain to the people and the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago where you are now going to get the increased funding for the NGC. Because if you also damage this jewel of a state enterprise, it is the people, the citizens that are going to suffer tremendously to the tune of billions of dollars.
you all have been saying that. I mean, you've been saying, tell us how we're going to pay for the 10% increase in salaries. Tell us how we're going to pay for it. So the question is that at this point, we don't know how they're going to manage that 7 billion.
They have an obligation to explain. We are asking those questions, and they are critical questions. Yeah. And they have cancelled all of the initiatives that the PNM government would have put in place to increase revenue to run the operations of this country so that people can continue to get access to cheap electricity, so you can continue to fund your utility assistance program, you can continue to fund your rebate program. All of these programs, they cost money. And we put initiatives in place to ensure that the government has access to resources to protect the most vulnerable in the citizens.
The thing the average man in the street is wondering where the money will come from, or what will happen to the 7 billion. Would he just be happy that there wouldn't be an increase in electricity?
He will be happy, but he will also need to be informed that the decisions are not in his best interest, because he stands to suffer even more when your utility agency cannot provide a reliable supply of electricity so that we can have an economy that can create jobs, that can create income for our poor and our vulnerable citizens. They stand to lose even more.
And you say that the TNTEC's ability to provide reliable electricity will be affected.
It
by
will
this
be impacted.
situation?
It will be impacted. It will be impacted. And that's the reason why they put together a business plan. Yeah. That's right. So someone will have to pay the cost. And it is a $1 billion decision.
Because that is the only thing that people would be moved by, the fact that if their supply will be affected.
Of course.
That is where
And I am saying, and we are saying that TNTech has asked for a review of their rates so that they can continue to have access to financial resources so that they can undertake their necessary maintenance on their distribution grid so that all of us can have access to electricity and what have you, that they will provide electricity to some of our domestic customers, to their commercial customers, the industrial plants, and what have you. So you have to take all of that into consideration. So saying that you scrap an RIC report sounds good, you get the necessary headline, but your utility agency is now exposed. Yeah. And you see, again, let us explain. We, the PNM government, as a responsible government, they have removed all of, well, I mean, I'm talking about the other revenue generating measures to continue to fund the buffers that we have put in place. Yes.
Could you roughly say, like, on an international comparison, what do Trinidad and Tobago nationals now pay roughly for their electricity?
I think it's about 5 US cents, and the international rate is about 15 cents.
Okay.
15 cents. So it's one of the lowest rate of electricity in Trinidad and Tobago that we have been carrying for years. Kilowatt. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Two, there are a lot of contractors who would have worked for MTF, and they would have worked for other agencies.
Yes.
And they haven't been paid. And these contractors are reaching to a breaking point, and they are asking the opposition find out or question the government on when they can pay as contractors, garbage collection, all the different and what's your feeling?
Well, I gave an interview yesterday with the Trinidad Express on the MTS issue, and I would say this for now, that what you are seeing here is gross incompetence on the part of the government. Gross incompetence and an inability to manage a complex country. They were unprepared. They sat in opposition for 9 years. All of MTS's audited financials were submitted. I laid them in the parliament. And if they were reading it, then they would have known about MTS's financial situation. And therefore, it was their responsibility. It should not have shocked them to know that MTS was experiencing its challenges. And we are all aware of the challenges of MTS. But I can tell you that as Minister of Public Utilities, I would have been on the phone on a regular basis talking to my permanent secretary, talking to my colleague, the Minister of Finance. I would ask my permanent secretary to reach out to the permanent secretaries of the Ministry of Housing and the Ministry of Education and some of those critical customers of MTS to ensure that they get the appropriate payment so that they can meet their monthly obligation, including the payment of salaries and what have you. I would have been in constant contact with the Minister of Finance to ensure that the releases are provided to the MTS. That is how a minister ought to conduct themselves in office. But if you behave like Barry Padarat, involved in all kind of couture and mahima every single day, bacchanal and confusion, and you are not settling down to do your work, that is the reason why you have so many of our employees going without salaries, because he's not sitting down to do his work. I would advise him, sit, talk to your permanent secretary, talk to your colleague Minister of Finance. Get your permanent secretaries to call other permanent secretaries so that they can make the necessary releases, make it available so that payments can be made to the MTS. That is how you manage a country. And we were doing that every single day. We were not pulling our hair out of our heads and saying, oh, everything is so bad and everything is bad and everything is in a financial mess and what have you. The PNM government makes governance look too easy. And that is our problem. We make governance look too easy, where every Tom, Dick, and Harry believe you could come and lie to the population, get into government, and when you go into it, you make a complete and total mess of this country. And that is exactly what you're witnessing today. They were unprepared, they were never prepared, and they will never settle down to manage this country. Thank you very much.
Can we quantify the number of MTS persons who may be affected or
you're talking about 700 employees, janitorial workers, security officers, and about 700 employees that would have been impacted, not meeting their monthly obligations to pay their debts, pay their mortgages, and their lives are impacted simply because you have a minister that is totally distracted with all kinds of things other than doing his work.
Do you know what the period is there have been payments in problems for? Do you know, like how long they haven't been?
Sean, let me tell you this. The monies owed to MTS are from ministries and state agencies. All of that money comes from the Ministry of Finance. Those ministries cannot make those payments unless and until they get the necessary allocations from the Ministry of Finance. And that is the reason why it takes collaboration between all of the state agencies, all of the ministries, the ministers, to speak to each other to ensure that the appropriate allocations are made so that these critical state agencies like the MTS can continue to function despite the financial challenges. So I acknowledge MTS and the audited financials that we filed would have shown that they're having difficulties because some of their bigger customers were having challenges. And that is because, as I told the Express yesterday, the challenges that we continue to have with revenues and expenditure. And as revenues come in, allocations will be made and those agencies will meet their obligations. But you have to manage in difficult circumstances so as to ensure that your daily operation is not in any way disrupted.
To kind of open a new kind of worms, the CPAP, between two ministries, it is transferred.
Yeah, I don't want to expand the discussion. The greatest of respect, I always like to answer as most questions as possible, but I do really want to expand the discussion today with CPEP and other issues. The critical things that we plan to deal with today is the RIC report and its implications for TNTech. And of course, Senator Alvari would have provided you with a full explanation with respect to this issue on the extradition of Jack Warner. I don't want to expand it. It's quite a lot. So thank you all very much. And I wish you a very safe afternoon. Thank you very much.
Okay. So that was the press conference, and it was a little long, but information. And what will have to happen now is now we will have to wait on we may have to try to find out from the US Embassy what may be America's next step or go to Homeland Security in America to find out what is the next move concerning with Jack Warner and this whole bacchanal that John Jeremy and them keep putting themselves in. So, more scandals and more scandals and more scandals. this government is about to get out of jail card for many of them. So we're going to look at that, and we're going to look at it in depth, and we are going to really start to do some introspective thinking on this whole scenario later on tonight. Jenny is up at 5:30, 6 o'clock, and then I will be in at 8 o'clock tonight. So this is some serious waters now we are charting on it, and these waters, so we now have to pay 15% more money on tariffs, and we may be very well faced with new sanctions by America, who wants Jack Warner to face criminal prosecution, especially with that Haiti matter. What construction noise you talking about? You hearing things? Me and no construction. What the hell? Well, no. You remember we buy a lot of things, eh? We buy the raw material. So we have to import a lot of raw material. We also import a lot of food stuff. And also, we do a lot of importing in this country. And then, well, let's see what's happening. There's a normal thing that always happens, that government is owing state agencies. They do find a way to pay it, but what this government wants to do is shut it down. The tariff is for the US. Okay. So we don't sell our products. Because I know one thing we do is import raw material, and then we sell the new product that is made from the raw material. So we have a 15% tax that we also have to pay also. And that is going to affect this country severely. Whether import, export, because our biggest market is the United States of America. Okay. And that is why I'm going to have my that is why we are going to have our economists coming in, and we are going to ask all the questions from our economists and get a better understanding on how this is going to impact on the economy this week coming here. People, you don't want to miss it. It is going to be very serious and intense, and we are going to be dealing with the economy come Sunday. while some people are playing games with people's lives and livelihood in this country, it is time for people to know the truth, and we are going to bring an independent economist in the fold so that you can get a better understanding, so that they can say that he is either PNM or UNC. He is an economist, not even from Trinidad and Tobago. So we are going to bring in BounXup's economists, and we will look at all of these things come on Sunday. Yeah? Yeah? Yep. We'll leave that for Sunday. But tonight we'll be talking on a number of things, and also tonight we'll be talking on a number of things, but we must deal with the Wayne Sturge. This Wayne Sturge matter, which is really, yep. It will affect our manufacturing sector. Yeah, I know that. It will affect us severely, and we will have to pay more. Well, the small business people, especially young entrepreneurs, the small entrepreneurs, which make up a large percentage of business owners in Trinidad, they have different levels. So they are going to feel it even more. So you have the big businesses that will feel it, the small businesses that will feel it, the medium-sized businesses will feel it, and the micro businesses, well, they will be passed on to them. Well, we're going to look at all of these things. Mr. Denner, I have thing to do, you know. So I can't pass. And then tonight is show. So but Mr. Alkia says she passing. Well, I wouldn't. Well, let me tell you something. A number of countries will feel the pressure, and Kamala Prasad, the sister, have we in this mess? Me showing off. Well, all that we will look at, all that Mr. Thomas, don't say too much yet. Cause let me know, you know. Let me know, you know. Yeah. You're mad? No, Super C. Oh God. Hey, so that was our press on for today, and we do want to thank you all. I'm not able now. No, I will not be tempted. 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 I don't know why Super C like that cocoa, you know. I don't know why Super C like the cocoa. But but later on tonight we will be getting into that. And this Sunday oh God, I don't know, wait till I get on with, you know. It's too early in the evening. Yeah, Kamala called for sanctions on we, yeah? And look what happening to Moody now. Look what happening to... glad you know that. I'm glad you know that. Look at what is happening with Moody now. We just gave Moody the highest order in Trinidad and Tobago. People... Mr. Dana have nothing to do. Mr. Dana really have nothing to do. You stay there in the yard. Yeah, Moody say he going for the Russian oil. Now Trinidad could have well taken the deal with the Dragon deal. And you know what Kamala did? Sanction. Look, they want to do things. Call for sanction on Trinidad and Tobago. Now look at what we in today. Oh yeah, let me just leave you all with some. I'm not able now. Oh yeah, tonight, this afternoon, look out. Look out this afternoon for Jenny, and then we go straight in the dauntless defenders of good governance. There we go.
What are you doing? She said, yes. She said, let me cater to you. I said, cater to me. She said, just relax and let me give you the tea. No. She said, take it easy, I will do the work. You don't have to wind up yourself. You don't have to wind up yourself. Oh, she said, take it easy, I will do the work. You don't have to wind up yourself. You don't have to wind up yourself. Oh, and then she bubble and wine. Push back is the greatest man. Oh, push back. Roll your waist and bend over. Push back. Oh, Miss Lady, she bubble and wine. Push back. Give me the greatest man. Oh, push back. You are the wickedest man. Oh, push back. Why? I wanna wine on your bumper. I know you wallpaper for my iPhone screen. She said, let me cater to you, I say cater to me. She said, just relax and let me give you the thing. Yes, girl, I wanna give you the thing. She said, take it easy, I will do the work. You don't have to wind up yourself. You don't have to wind up yourself. Oh, she said, take it easy, I will do the work. You don't have to wind up yourself. You don't have to wind up yourself. Oh, and then she bubble and she bubble and she bubble and whine. Push back is the greatest bend over. Push back, roll your waist and bend over. Push back, oh Miss Lady, bubble and she bubble and she bubble and whine. Push back, give me the greatest bend over. Push back, you are the wickedest bend over. Push back, oh. Who are the rubber waist? Like a rubber band. You have your own things, you never rubber man. And when you put on your costume back and all, every man want jam in your section. She said, let me cater to you, I say cater to me. She said, just relax and let me give you the thing. Yes, girl, I wanna give you the thing. She said, take it easy, I will do the work. You don't have to wind up yourself. You don't have to wind up yourself. Oh, she said, take it easy, I will do the work. You don't have to wind up yourself. You don't have to wind up yourself. Oh, and then she bubble and she bubble and she bubble and whine. Push back is the greatest bend over. Push back, roll your waist and bend over. Push back, oh Miss Lady, bubble and she bubble and she bubble and whine. Push back, give me the greatest bend over. Push back, you are the wickedest bend over. Push back, oh.
You know, we're going on leave. Alright, so we're going out, There you go. What is that?
I could take a dance with my lover in the middle of the road, but everywhere I look now is pressure. So give me something to ease my soul, cause we need a healing. And when you check the situation, from since I was small I just so common. That type of feeling when you need some motivation, this thing could